Hey there, I'm Tony from the Marathon Mates. On this episode, we're talking about one of our most favourite major marathons, and that is the Chicago Marathon. In this episode, we're going to take you from all the way from the expo through to the finish line and discuss everything in between. We're going to share our memories of the running that we did over the course of that weekend that we ran it, as well as teach you about some of the awesome things that you can see and do in Chicago. Chicago is a flat and a fast course and is currently the home to both the men's and women's marathon world records. It's a running city with a long history of hosting this event, and it's definitely a bucket list for many runners around the world. As we keep saying, we are the only podcast in the world with 4 7-star marathon major finishes. We have the experience and the knowledge and definitely know a thing or two about running around the world. This is the Flying RuNR Podcast. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the Flying RuNR, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to the Flying RuNR. I'm Tony from the Marathon Mates, and this is episode 117. Tonight we're talking about the Bank of America Chicago Marathon, one of 7 world major events. We will discuss everything from the expo to the finish line and everything in between. We've all been there and experienced how awesome this event is, and hopefully by the end of tonight's show, you too will have it on your bucket list as a city and an event to travel to. But before we do any of that, let's introduce the co-hosts. We have Tim and Tara from Team Ellis Running. And of course, next to me on the screen is one of my faves, Lucia, who is going to get confused when we start daylight saving very soon. Guys, how are you all? And most importantly, let's start with Lucia. How has your week been?
Running hasn't been where I'd like it to be, so I'm still struggling a little bit, but I'm going to get back into strength this week. I'm going to do my first strength class, I reckon, in nearly 7 weeks tomorrow, so that will be interesting. But on Sunday, we had the first, so Sydney Marathon's bringing back the run clubs, and we had one with one of the partner run clubs, the Sydney Muslim Run Club. Best post run snack ever. Jasmine from the Sydney Muslim Run Club had fairy bread there.
You might need to explain.
Christmas party, a 5-year-old's birthday party.
So just for our listeners who may not be familiar with fairy bread, what it is, it's just plain, it's got to be done with white bread. You can't do it with any other bread. Plain white bread, butter, and hundreds of thousands, which are a cake decoration. There's really no flavour to it, but it's just goodness. It's kiddie party goodness. And when she took it out, we were like, Jasmine, it's going to be hard to beat this. So for anyone that's doing any of the Sydney Marathon partner run clubs next year, the standard has been set. So needless to say, that made my day.
Okay, so we can expect to see that at kilometre 25 in the Sydney Marathon next year. Fairy bread on nutrition tables.
Probably from kilometre 5, because that's where the first drink station was. So, yeah, I might have to have a word with the powers of be at the marathon team and say, we need to up the game, guys.
That's awesome. Team Ellis, how was your week? Whoever wants to do it.
Go for it, Tim.
Well, we did our midweek runs last week, and we did our park run. This week we went to North Lakes Park Run, where we got to run with our friends, Margaret and Julie, who both completed their 500th park run. So it was a big celebration there.
Wow.
Lots of friends, lots of family. So
And
it was
John
really
Sellers
good.
his 150th park run.
Yes, and
Yeah.
friend of the park run, friend of the podcast, John Sellers. Yeah, 150 park runs. So well done. And then, backed it up the next day on Sunday with a long run. Tara decided it was time to stay in bed and listen to her body. She's in that transition stage, I guess, at the moment where she's come out of a marathon and looking forward to whatever it is that we do next year. So I went forward and ran with Patrick, our son. He's sort of now starting to get back into running again after Gold Coast. So, knocked out an easy 18 Ks with him over the weekend. I got to admit, running with him is really good. When he runs, even in the marathon, he might do some walking along the way, but every time he runs, he always comes back to the same level. It doesn't matter how fatigued he's getting, always goes back to the same pace. And it was pretty cool to see that as well. And one last thing, I guess, Tara, should we do the announcement about GC50?
Yeah, so one of the other reasons why I didn't run is because Tim needs to get some kilometres on me. Because we are running, is it 2 weeks' time, Tim, for the GC50 race?
1 week after this is 1 week after this one is released.
Yep, but it's only going to be the 21K. They've reduced it down to the 21, so the half marathon. Tim and I will be finishing our Run Down Under journey at the GC50 race. So Travis, the founder of Run Down Under, will be there to present us with our medals. And it will be a good day. So if anybody who wants to come and watch Team Alice finish their Run Down Under journey, feel free to come to the GC50 race at the half marathon finish.
Yeah, on the Sunday. We won't be quick. We'll be near the back there, just enjoying ourselves and having some fun. But we'll make some fun of it when we cross the finish line and finish our journey around Australia, our virtual journey.
That is awesome to hear, guys. And speaking of medals, right, you may not have heard this. This was one of the best kept secrets of the Berlin Marathon. And as we know, there was a fair bit of fallout around the Berlin Marathon with, apparently 26 degrees is really hot, but then you hear some people it was 28 degrees. So, okay, it's really hot. It was hot. There were miscuts. The finish line closed off whenever they decided to close it off instead of being disciplined around what it was. So there was a bit of fallout. But I know you probably haven't heard this, but Harry Styles actually ran the Berlin Marathon under a stage name of Sted Sarandos. Now, I know that that's been kept pretty quiet, and you may not have read anything about that at all. But do you think Harry Styles is going to go for being a 6-star medalist?
Well, I don't think he can, because his first one, which was at Tokyo, is run under Harry Styles, and this one has been run under Sted Sarandos or whatever. Sarandos, yeah. So he's now got 2 profiles on the World Marathon Majors. So maybe he's going for 2 rounds of it in 2 different names.
How do you pick up a bib at the expo without ID that says your real name? Like he would have a passport.
Maybe his real name is Sted Sarandos.
Don't know. In Tokyo, he's picked up a bib with Harry Styles on it. So how do you pick up a bib at a World Marathon Major? Questions need to be asked. There's a scandal here. Somebody's given him a bib without going through the proper processes. Did he actually qualify? Did he go through the ballot, or have they handed him an elite one?
Yeah, or did he get an influencer badge? I mean, bib. So there's.
Or is he running under somebody else's bib? That's the worst part. Is he a bib bandit?
He could be a bib bandit. Yeah. So Harry Styles. So they really kept that quiet, didn't they? They just haven't heard about it at all. At all.
2 hours 59, though. Give the guy credit. 2 hours 59.
I can run
in that heat is pretty good. And he was wearing. Did he wear long sleeve pants and long sleeve shirt? I think as well. Definitely a long sleeve shirt.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised because I thought he could only go in one direction. So.
I
Sorry.
like that one.
All
Had to
right,
be
so had to be done. All right, guys.
Bring back Tim's joke of the week.
All right, it's that time of the week. Let's talk about the news. All right, Tim, what's been happening around the world this week?
This week it's been a big week if you're a Boston qualifier, because this week the Boston Athletic Association has announced the much anticipated cutoffs for next year's event. As we know, the event is held in April every year, and in September, late September, they announce the cutoff times. So it's not just good enough to have a Boston qualifier. You need to have a Boston qualifier plus some in order to make the cutoff. And this year, the official cutoff time was 4 minutes and 34 seconds quicker than the official times for each age category. So to give you some stats, there were 33,249 runners who put an application into the Boston Athletic Association with a Boston qualifying time. Of those 33,249, 24,362 runners had their applications accepted, which equates to 74% of all applicants got an entry for next year. Runners from all 50 states and all 50 states of the US and 120 countries have been successful for next year, and that includes 1,373 runners from the state of Massachusetts, which is where Boston is located. All runners were accepted from a range of age groups that included 18-year-olds right up to 83-year-olds as the oldest Boston qualifier. 719 runners in the 24,000 have been accepted who have run Boston 10 or more times in the past. So that number of people with all their lists going down the bottom of their jackets, 719 of them will be able to add an extra year onto their jackets. Good for them. 10,710 runners will be running Boston for the first time, which equates to 43% of the field. 13,800 runners were identified as male, 10,400 runners identified as female, and 110 runners were non-binary. So this is an important one because we know you have to qualify. So the top qualifying marathons for the event, 2,981 runners who got accepted this year ran and qualified at the Boston Marathon this year. 1,804 runners, the second most amount of runners, qualified via the Chicago Marathon last year. 1,127 runners ran Berlin last year. 832 runners ran New York last year. And 675 runners ran California International Marathon last year as well. So a couple of big shout outs. One to our good friend, our marathon mate, Kim Tudjman, who has been accepted this year and will be in Boston next year, as has Michael from Traveling Fit, who will be also running it next year for his 6-star. And also a big shout out to a friend of ours, Tara and myself, our friend Nigel and his wife Helen, who have both qualified and made the cutoffs. So I wish them all a really good time. But I just wish a BQ meant a BQ. I think it would make it a lot easier for people that if they beat the qualifying time, then they were accepted. They didn't have to go through this cutoff, BQ plus a bit. But, I would have thought, to be honest, guys, if you got 33,249 applicants, that's enough for the field, and then throw in the charity runners and the tourists that come through. They could quite easily run 36,000 runners and not have all the issues that they have. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
sorry, Tony, you go.
Luke.
I think it's always an interesting one because people they know the rules, and it's the same drama year on year. We were actually talking about it at Run Club this morning, that one of the guys saw that one guy had missed out by 1 second, and it was his third time in a row missing out. Apparently last year he missed out by 4 seconds. So we had about half a dozen people from our Run Club qualify, so they're all excited. And then I've got two good friends, Tara and Tim, you know them, Nadine and Laurie.
Yep.
Laurie qualified, and Adine's doing it through charity We Run Foundation, which is the charity of the Sydney Marathon. So she's very excited. She'll also be getting her 6th start in Boston. So it's going to be good to know so many people doing Boston next year.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting. There's obviously reasons why they won't increase the size of the fields, and whether it's all the little towns and whatnot. So there's obviously reasons. But one thing that I am getting a little jaded with, and I saw a post by our good friend Running Paparazzi around the Berlin Marathon, and we've all read the post. There's no need for us to talk about it, but one of the people on that who commented on that post made the point that if he had trained, he would have been right? And then and Reese has come back with no shit, Sherlock, which I thought was pretty cool. But then the guy goes on and says that, fundamentally that he was stealing a place for someone who deserved to run. And I just think, at the end of the day, if that's your mindset and that's how you're going to treat a fellow runner who gets out and goes out and does a 42.2 kilometer walk, run, shuffle, stroll, whatever he wants to call it, I just hate that. I'd hate to see how he treats people who don't even share a common hobby of running. So I just think, look, I agree with you. I think being a qualifier for Boston and striving for that, I think, is one of the hardest things that anyone can do. And I take my hat off to every runner who receives invitation to run Boston with their qualifying times. I take my hat off to you. I know how hard you train, and I know how much hard it must be. But please do not demean the people who are training just as hard, struggling just as much. A long run for someone who qualifies is probably 2 hours. A long run for someone at the back of the pack, they're probably looking at half day Sunday. So the degree of difficulty is absolutely there for the back of the pack runner, as it is with our faster runners at the front of the field. So there's no reason at all for people to be demeaning people just because they run slower than they do. And to suggest that there was no training involved is just a gross an understatement of the century, because we know how hard Reese works, how hard he helps other people on the course. And I just thought, please get a life, people.
Yeah. 42.2 kilometres is still 42.2 kilometres. Whether you run it, walk it, or whatever you do, it is still that distance, and it is a long way, and it is very hard. Yeah. So,
and I know just within our circle of friends, we've got runners that run 3 hours. We know people like Kai who runs less than 3 hours, in the 2s. My operations manager at work is running New York this year. He's aiming for a 3:30. But the respect that they show other runners is there, and we're all one community. And when you demean someone just because of the pace that they run, I just don't think that's on at all, and just shows the type of person you are. I've had my rant. Back to you, Tim.
No, well said, Tony, and I fully endorse everything you've said. I agree wholeheartedly. Now, guys, some sad news this week with the passing of Ethiopian marathon runner Shawagi Alini. Hopefully I said that right. Shawagi won the Adidas Stockholm Marathon just 4 months ago. She apparently became unwell during a training session and was taken to hospital, where sadly her life could not have been saved. She had complained of heart problems during a training session in the capital of Addis Ababa and died shortly afterwards. But they have not given any further details yet on the cause of death. She was buried later on in a cemetery, and she was just 30 years of age. In Stockholm earlier this year, she won the race in 2 hours, 30 minutes and 38 seconds, and it was the final race of her life. According to World Athletics, on her profile page, She's completed 26 marathons for 12 wins between the time period of 2012 and 2025. And her personal best was 2 hours 27, 26, which was set in 2023 at the Cape Town Marathon, which is, as we know, in the running to become a major. So, guys, this is tragic news. It shows you that life is not guaranteed, which is why I think we're all about, and always have been on this podcast, about getting out there and experiencing things and making memories and just getting out there and doing races like Chicago that we're talking about tonight, because you just never know how long you've got left on this planet, and putting things off for another year or another year after that, you just never know. So our thoughts do go out to Shawagi's family and friends. So yeah, that's tragic, that one.
Absolutely.
And then just one last piece of news here. This one's a somewhat funny one, and I thank Tara for sending it to me. During the Berlin Marathon race, an American marathoner blew a shoe 10 kilometers in, and a spectator quickly offered his own shoe for that runner to run. So after months of training, American marathoner Jay Glidewell of St. Louis faced every runner's nightmare. Just 10 kilometers into the marathon, his shoe completely gave out. The right sole on his well-worn Nike Vaporfly 4% fly knits tore off, leaving him with no choice but to complete 32 kilometers of the course barefoot. Out of the crowd, a German spectator, Sven Hock, stepped in, literally speaking and offering Glidewell his own shoes to continue the run on. By pure coincidence, it was the perfect size. Glidewell slipped it on, and thanks to the act of kindness, he went on to finish the race in 3 hours and 10 minutes, 33 seconds. Wow. They've now become good friends, and he lent him the right shoe. So the Sven lent Glidewell the right shoe. But here it gets even trickier. At 38 kilometers, Glidewell's left shoe then blew apart, forcing him to walk the last 4 kilometers in his sock and Sven's right shoe.
Wow.
So it just happened to be the right timing at the right place with the right shoe and the right size all lining up at the same time. So how is that for a story, guys? It's pretty cool one, and one that would never probably happen to me ever. Of all the races we do, if I ever blew a shoe, I don't think the spectator's going to have a size 11.5 Brooks Glycerin or Brooks Ghost on hand, but you just never know, I guess.
I wonder how fast he would have run if he didn't blow the shoes and have to change it out and then run walk at the end. So, yeah, impressive.
Yeah, I should do some research for Strava or something and see what Jay Glidewell's best time is.
I really love that story, but just to make sure the listeners are aware, we are not sponsored by Nike. What was the show again? Vaporfly RuNR, and it sounds like you do have some. That's it. It does sound like you've got some challenges out there, Nike, with the wear of this shoe. So we would love to test a pair or two if you want to send them our way. But currently not sponsored by Nike, right?
No,
the article.
Sorry, Lucia.
We aren't sponsored by anyone, but any sponsor is welcome.
Yes, free samples. We like free samples.
Yes.
The article did say that he had been pushing the limits of those shoes well beyond where they should have been. So, as we know, a lot of those Nike Vaporflies, they're only designed for a couple of 100 kilometers at most for a couple of races. So he apparently pushed them quite some far beyond that. So that's what happens if you take it beyond the engineering capabilities of the shoe, I guess. Anyway, that's the news this week, guys.
Excellent. And some great stories there, Tim. I'm going to quickly share a very quick shoe story. There's the Saucony Endorphin trainer came out this year to replace the Kinvara Pro, which I love. I love the Kinvara Pro as a shoe, but it was replaced by the Endorphin trainer. But at $320, it was unlikely to join my rotation. However, just 3 weeks ago, Athlete's Foot here in Australia decided they did not like this colorway, and the $319 shoe became $99. So I'm now running blissfully in a brand new pair of endorphin trainers, and I bought a second pair just in case I really love them. So nice little story. Always be on the lookout for bargains, because you never know the reasons why some people will get will discount shoes. In this case, it was purely the colorway. So
you're happy to run in ugly shoes, is what you're saying?
No. I actually like the shoes. So I thought the colorway they didn't discount was ugly. So I think I got a real bargain. All right, let's talk about the Bank of America Chicago Marathon. As we keep saying, the marathon weekend starts with the expo. And to be honest, in our opinion, Chicago has one of the best expos there is. As we know, also, Lucia is the queen of the world major expos, and she's going to start being invited to expos just to give them a rating, I reckon, at one stage. If we keep this up, Luch, you'll start getting invites to come rate expos. So, Luch, what can listeners expect when they attend the Chicago Marathon Expo?
Well, what's interesting now, it's actually called the Abbott Health and Fitness Expo. So which kind of ponders, are they going to expand it to just beyond running? Could we see Chicago have hair products, roofing solutions, sign up to be a Navy SEAL, or God knows what else? So it's, interesting that they've rebranded it, because when we all did it, it was the Bank of America Chicago Expo. So it's held over 3 days. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday at McCormick Place. So on Thursday, it's open from 11 till 6, Friday 9 till 6, and Saturday 9 till 6. But a side note, which I'll come down to, if you're doing the 5K run on the Saturday, there's no bib pickup on the Saturday. You have to go to the expo either the Thursday or the Friday. I remember when I did Chicago, we were there first day, very close to opening. No surprise there. So, and one thing that I like about Chicago is the way they have it set up is absolutely fantastic. You go through, there's one side is for the bib for the 5K, you scan your QR code, and then they tell you which section to go to for it. And then the same with the marathon. Probably one of the most seamless bib pickups, because it just works so well. A friend of mine, Terry, who was my pacing partner at Sydney, she's volunteering at the expo because she's running Chicago, but her and a friend are also volunteering, I think, on the Friday at bib pickup. She's excited to ring the bell for any first timers. So it sounds like it's going to be a blast for her. And then the other thing that they do really well is how to get your participant bag. So in the bag, it's the usual, the safety pins, the gear check tag, and the Nike runners t-shirt, and then you get the plastic bag. But the one thing that is really good, and if you haven't done Chicago, listeners, please take note, on your bib, there's actually a part that you tear away, which gives you a bib post-race. And I know we're going to get into it a bit later on, but one of my fondest memories of Chicago is crossing the finish line, getting a bib for a bottle of water. One of the best memories I have of Chicago, and that bib went down a tree. So just and like most other, and like all other majors, you do need to have photo ID to pick up your bib. So again, someone else can't pick it up for you. And I got there because a few of us, we went together and we got an Uber, because it's not the easiest expo to get to in terms of public transport. I don't know how you guys got there when you went, but as I said, we got an Uber. And one of the funny stories, on the way back, so 3 Aussies in a cab talking to an American. He goes, "Oh, what are you guys here for?" "Oh, we're here for the marathon." And then we're just talking to him. He thought the blue lines on the road was for road construction work and not for the marathon. And when we told him that it wasn't, we were all in stitches.
Knowing the state of Chicago roads, he was probably hoping that was the case, and they were going to do some work.
Hey, Lucia, just so on the getting to the expo, you are right. It is not easy. The best bit is public transport, but Just a word of advice: you can walk it. We walked it, Tara and I, from sort of downtown CBD area of Chicago down into the expo. It's about a 5K walk. We went along the waterfront thinking it was the most direct line, and then when we got there, we couldn't find the actual entrance to the expo. There was not a lot on the waterfront side, and we're walking around and around and around trying to find the right entrance way to get into it. And eventually we found our way, but it took probably another half hour, 45 minutes of walking around the building, didn't it, Tara, just to find it. When you're jet lagged and tired, it wasn't exactly fun.
Yeah.
But it is a nice walk.
Yeah, it sounds like you followed our path as well from the year before. Yeah, but
it is a nice walk. Sorry.
And if anyone does find the convention centre and going through the back way, like Tim and I and maybe Tony, it feels like you're in the 1970s in a government building from the 1970s, and it smells the same. So just be aware. Try and go around the front way because it is a nicer way to go in.
Yeah, but it is a nice walk down. Don't discard the walk. It is a little bit of a walk, but you do walk past Soldier Field, which is where the Chicago Bears play, which is the NFL gridiron team. And then you also walk past the Fields Museum as well, which is a famous natural history museum as well in Chicago. So, it's worth the walk. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just plan your way to the expo. If you're going to walk, get public transport, or be smart like I was and got an Uber, which dropped you right there. So, yeah, just a word of advice. It's not the easiest one to get to. And what they're doing, like most of the other majors, is they're doing various presentations on the stage. So how to set yourself up for race day success, about nutrition. Then they've got talks with, for instance, like different athletes. So there's one by Shocks athlete called Connor Mance. Hopefully I say his name right. And then meet and greet. So keep an eye on the Chicago Marathon website on the expo, and they'll have all the different sessions and what times. And so that way you can kind of plan as to what you want to do. One that looks good is current on one of the days, there's a talk with a Nike head running coach, Coach Bennett. So that one would be interesting hearing from him and doing a Q&A afterwards on that one. So as you can kind of guess, Nike is the major sponsor of it. I was a fan of the Nike merch the year I did it, but it does cause a bit of controversy. Tim and I, we've been back and forth because they have dropped the merch, and according to Tim, it looks like the Wiggles outfits and that kids have used crayons. I don't mind it, but so how it works is after you pick up your marathon bib, you then go through to the main expo floor. Nike is the first one. And the one thing that I like about Chicago is there are other vendors there. So there was Saucony, Asics, and so you could buy a lot of their stuff as well. But one thing that I won't forget is there's BioFreeze, and I must admit I also did a few loops just so I could get the free samples. So you can get a lot of samples. Take the time to enjoy. And I don't know if they've changed it, but the year I did it, to get our participant bag, we had to go to the back of the main expo floor. And from memory, I think you could also exchange your T-shirts. I don't think they were too strict on that the year we did it. So it's one of my favorites. It's not the best expo, but it's certainly up there, that's for sure.
Yeah. Tim, I can't just go on without getting your thoughts around the Chicago merch.
It's as I said, as Lucia said, it looks like kids with a crayon have drawn something and put it onto a T-shirt, and Nike's going, "Yep, that will sell." It was the same last year. Like Tara's wearing it. For our people who can see it, Tara can see there. It's pretty all over the shop as far as font goes and far as the logo looks. It's probably the only major marathon that doesn't have a consistent logo. It changes a little bit, and their merch changes every year. And the other thing to note is you don't have to buy your Nike stuff at the race expo at the Abbott Health and Fitness Expo, there is a Nike store in town on the north side of the Chicago River and the, what's it called, the Miracle Mile or whatever it is.
Mile, that's it.
And that is the hub of where you can buy most of the, or pretty much all the merch. And last year they had specialized finisher stuff, which is what Tara's wearing there, that you could buy after the race had finished. They released it on the Sunday evening. So be mindful of how much you spend at the merch, because you may want to stop by the Nike store on the Sunday evening or the Monday before you fly out to pick up some more finisher stuff that actually says finisher on it.
Absolutely.
And the jackets, they have 2 jackets. So if you do collect the jackets, just be aware that the one that you buy at the expo is different to the one that you buy as a finisher jacket as well. My finisher jacket is black, and I stupidly brought a bright purple finisher jacket, thinking it was a finisher jacket, but it was just a jacket, because I wasn't aware that it was going to be a finisher jacket. So word from the wise, please don't do my mistake and waste money.
Or if not word from the wise, just buy both.
Well, I have.
Why not?
But I live in Queensland, and do you know how often I wear a jacket?
Because the year that I did it, we got wind that they released some of the finisher stuff on the Friday afternoon. So as soon as we got off the Traveling Fit cruise, some of us literally bolted to the Nike store. It was literally getting your hands on what you could get.
So you are such an expo queen that you hear things on the down low and the underground, and you've got a direct line to all these secret little things happening. So, okay. Hey, Luch, excellent. Thank you for that detailed and very informative information about the expo. But as we head into the weekend, I mean, it is one of our favorite weekends. And like most of the other majors, Chicago has a 5K race on this Saturday. It's definitely, I've got really fond memories of the 5K race on the Saturday. It's a bit more of a fun run than a race. And it's very unique because it's known as the Bobble Hat event. And it really started the whole process of people getting a bobble hat, which New York has now followed, of course. So Tara, can you please explain to our listeners all about the Chicago Bobble Hat Run on the Saturday before the Sunday?
So much fun. If you can get a ticket and you can race this or run this, do it. It is highly recommended. It is better than New York's, what I reckon, because you also get a medal for this. So it's officially known as the Abbott 5K race, and it's held this year. It'll be on Saturday, the 11th of October, and it starts at 7:30 a.m. Now, it's so big that it even has its own event page. So it's linked to the marathon, but it's very much its own standalone event. It starts at Grant Park in downtown Chicago, and that's where the marathon will start the following day. But instead of crossing over the marathon start line and heading north, the 5K course goes west from Grant Park and doesn't actually cover any of the official marathon course at all. So it's a whole new part of the world that you're running in compared to what you will be the following day. As Lucia said, the bib pickup is actually at the Marathon Expo, and it must be picked up on the Thursday or the Friday. All the Abbott Chicago 5K participants are assigned to a start corral. So your start corral placement is based on your projected pace per mile. So you put that in when you register for the race. If you want to run with somebody in a different corral, like most other races, you can move back, but you can't move forward. The public transport is the way that they recommend to get to the race day start. We were very fortunate. We had a very short walk to Grant Park from where we were staying, which made it easier. There is no gear check available for the 5K race, so do not hide or store or leave any of your personal items along the course. And only one on-course aid station will offer the water, medical support, and toilet facilities, and that will be located about halfway point. But it's only a 5K race. You don't need more than one. To be able to complete the full 5Ks, they do want you running a 15-minute per mile pace, and that's start to finish, and they recommend that you do that in about 45 minutes. Runners who finish outside of the time requirement may not be recorded as an official finisher and may not receive any on-course support. So they are expecting you to be more than just a walker or a fun run, but they don't expect you to sprint it out. So you can run at about 8-minute pace and you'd be fine for us Australians or people that run on the metric system. Everyone.
8 minutes per kilometre.
So the timing checkpoints are positioned at the start and finish lines. And your timing device will register your time at each of these checkpoints. The course itself, as I said, it starts at Grant Park and then heads east across the downtown area of Chicago. Once you get to Wacker Drive, then you then head north until you hit the Chicago River before just heading east. So after about 2 miles, there is a turnaround point, and that means you'll head back and turn the same way you came. The finish point is actually on Wacker Drive, just outside the Willis Tower. Some of you may remember that as the Sears Tower. And before that, it was the world's tallest tower, but that's been overtaken. It's a great run. We had a lot of fun wearing our beanies. So you will get given a bobble hat or a beanie, as whatever way you want to call it, when you pick up your brace bib. Everyone wears their beanies on the race, and all you can see is these little bobbles running along as you're racing, and the little hats are bobbling along. So that's why they're called bobble hats. There's a great event. You get a lot of food and drink at the end of it from memory, and a really nice medal. But we actually run into one of our friends who have been on the podcast as we were running along, and all of a sudden, Tim will probably describe the situation better, but all of a sudden we're hearing these, "It's Team Ellis from the Flying RuNR," which was really, really cool, and that was Hayden. So I can't remember which podcast Hayden was on, Hayden Harvard, but he was actually running along. We saw him in Chicago. And then he's introduced us to all these other people that are, we listen to you. So hello to all of our 40 Runs fans that are hopefully still listening to us and that we saw on the Chicago Marathon, the 5K, sorry. We all had a lot of fun doing this event. I'm sure we only did ours last year, but Lucia and Tony, is your memories pretty much the same, or has it changed since then?
One of my favourites, and one thing I just wanted to add in about the 5K, Chicago's known for its tall buildings, so if your GPS is out of whack, don't stress, because having a look back at my Strava, my 5K the day before was apparently 6.29, and I was running a 5-minute 47 pace, which for our listeners, we know I don't do that pace. I would love to do that pace, but Strava was on crack. I can't even blame, or I'll blame Garmin. So if your GPS is out of whack, don't stress about it, but it is the atmosphere, so much fun. One thing I remember, the finish line, you're kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like, you are in the city, but you're kind of in between some big buildings. So I'm like, how do I get back to my hotel type thing? But I loved it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, ditto. I just had a great time at that run, and the hardest thing was at the finish. Yeah, just trying to work out how do I get home. So, thanks, Tara. That and for those people that watch us, you can see what my bobble hat looks like. It's still in fairly good nick, and it is a lot of fun. Now we're going to talk about the main event, and there's no one better to talk about the main event than Tim Ellis. So You are, I don't want to say you're our champion, Tim, but that's what's in the run sheet, so I've got to say it. Tim, you are our champion when it comes to describing courses.
I don't
You
know
can
about
tell.
that.
You can tell he writes this, right? He writes it. He expects us to say this, which here we are all the time having to praise Tim. No, Tim is our champion. He is the best.
But Tony, don't you notice that sometimes I go off script?
I've never noticed that before. Just
Sometimes.
like I never knew that Harry Styles ran Berlin until just the other day. So, but Tim is great at describing courses. He's got a level of detail that blows my mind. So, Tim, what can runners expect along the way? Tell us about the Chicago Marathon.
All right. Thanks, Tony. So to start with, the race precinct is all in one spot. The start line and the finish line is all in the same area. It's a circular course, and you run around the city. So you start and finish in Grant Park. Now, for those who have seen maps of Chicago, on the eastern side of the city is a giant lake, Lake Michigan. Beside the lake is a giant series of parks. One of those is Grant Park, and then you have the main downtown area. So it's pretty central to most things, and it's a huge park that's got great area there for people to access it and get around it. Now, it is important that it is a huge park. You must be aware of that, and there are multiple entrances in and out of that park. So my best tip is to probably go down to that precinct the day beforehand to understand exactly which entrance you need to take into that park, because they'll only let certain people into those areas if your bib matches the area that you're meant to go into. So it is tight with security. It is tight with lots of fencing. And on race morning, there's a lot of people crowded around those gates and entranceways. So make sure you get there the day earlier and get yourself familiar with it. Don't try and go down the river or the lakeside side of the park to try and gain entrance into the marathon. You won't be able to do it. You have to come in via the city side to get access to it. As usual, as I said, there are buses and trains and all sorts of things that will get you there. But if you can get anything that will get you into the central downtown area of Chicago, you'll be able to walk the rest of the distance to Grant Park from there. If you are using a bag drop, you can. There are bag drops there at the event, but you must use the clear bags that are provided at the expo. To be honest, we didn't do a bag drop last year. I don't know if you guys did one, but you get a poncho afterwards. For us, it's a relatively short walk back to the hotel. It was a little bit cold towards the end of there when we were walking back, but the blankets are really good and keep you warm along the way. Just some timing of things. Grant Park opens to all race runners from 5:30 a.m. Gear check opens from 5:30 a.m., as do the start corrals. Wave 1, and it is important to understand it's not it is basically one continuous wave of runners that go once the elites start. So there are different waves, but the gap between the last runner running through that first wave and the start of the next wave, you're literally talking maybe no more than 5 minutes, right? So it is pretty much one continuous wave. The first wave will leave at 7:20 a.m., and then it will continue on with the last wave leaving at 8:35. So there's 3 hours from when the park opens to when the last wave goes. But as I said, it is a continuous wave through. There are 9, 10, 10, 11, 12, 13 different corrals that you can be assigned to. Letters A through to N will indicate which corrals you'll be in. And depending which corral you're in will depend which wave you're in. So wave 1 will comprise of A, B, C, D, and E waves. Wave 2 will comprise of F, G, H, and J. And wave 3 will comprise of K, L, M, and N waves. Out on course, you will get Tara's favourite endurance formula out on course provided to you. It is Gatorade Endurance Formula Lemon Lime. And it is important to note it is the endurance formula. It's one that we don't get normally here in Australia, and it's different than what you might be used to. So just be aware of that. There will also be water provided, and it will be available at the race area, as well as Gatorade. And then around some of the medical areas, they'll also have things like Band-Aids, safety pins, skin lubricant. So they really do look after the runners on this course. There are plenty of toilet facilities at Grant Park and in and around the Corrals. We had no issues with the toilets last year, Tara. They were pretty easy. There was no real major lineups, was there, for any of them?
No problems at all there.
Yep, no, it was really good. Out on course, there are 28 stations. So that's approximately one every 1 to 2 miles along the course. Each aid station will comprise of a medical tent, a portable restroom, so a portaloo, or 2 or 3 or 4, Gatorade endurance flavor, as I said, as well as water. So you get Gatorade and water at every drink station along the way. Morton is the official fuel for the Bank of America Chicago Marathon, and out on course, runners can grab a caffeinated or non-caffeinated gel at mile 12.4, which is at aid station number 9, mile 15.7, which is at aid station 12, and at mile 18.1, which is at aid station 14. Guys, I can't remember any other marathon out there giving 3 lots of gels along the way. Maybe Boston, but I think Sydney did do 3 lots. Did they?
Maybe 2.
I thought it was.
I don't think Chicago did that the year we did it, Tim, when we were running. However, when we did go through every aid station, there was no gels left. So Sydney's the only one that I've seen gels at any of the majors when they say they've got them. So if you're a back of the packer like me, you won't see gels apart from Sydney.
Yep. But what you did see, Tara, last year at aid stations 16 and 18 was bananas, and they do offer bananas as well out on course, and they did have them there as well. So that was really good. And most importantly, the thing we all tend to love, the biofreeze zone. And this is really well done in Chicago. It's at mile 21.2, and it is a biofreeze cooling zone where on both sides of the road for about 100 meters, there are people there with biofreeze willing to spray you wherever you want with biofreeze to help ease up some of the pain that you might have in your ligaments or in your muscles. So that is good. We didn't use it last year, did we, Tara? But all we could smell as we ran past was the smell of biofreeze, and it just wafted through the air.
Oh, I used it, and it was a lifesaver.
Yeah, no, it is pretty good. Now, the official cutoff time for the course is 6 hours and 30 minutes. Obviously, that is from when the last wave commences. There is an event vehicle that will follow the last starter and maintain a 15-minute mile pace from when the last starter starts, which is the official cutoff car for the event. So you've got to stay in front of the car if you're a back of the packer. Essentially, if you're a participant who finishes after 4 p.m. in the afternoon, you may not be recorded or published as an official finisher and may not receive full on-course support. So it is really important that you do aim to try and finish before 4 p.m. All right, the course. What does the course look like, guys? Now, the course is a pretty cool course. We really enjoyed this course. As I said, you start in Grant Park and you head north. Now, you're right, Lucia, when you said earlier on, the GPS signals get screwed up big time, and they did for us. So there's not a lot you can do it. So rely on the mile markers on the course and do your best to do the calculations in your head for the kilometres. Every 5 kilometres, there is a 5 kilometre timing mat, so you can test where you're at. But you head north. Within a few hundred meters of starting the race, you then go through an underground section. And if you think of Blues Brothers and you think of the big car crash scene and they're crashing in underneath in the tunnels of Chicago, that's exactly where it occurred, in that section there. You then head over the river, you come up the other side, you turn around and come back over the river again, and you do a short section where you run past the famous Chicago Theatre, and it is the one that has the Chicago signs and the flashing neon lights out the front of it. It's all lit up. It looks spectacular on your left-hand side as you run past there. You then do another dogleg through the city. You run back north again, and this is a really long section north now where you're running up to around about, I think it was from memory, about 12 kilometres or so where you're running north. And this is a pretty section as you run up north. You're running through an area called Lincoln Park, not named after the music band, but a very spectacular section there where you're running past the zoological gardens, running past some big murals of Abraham Lincoln and a whole heap of other things. You're running there along some of the nice views of the lake as well of Lake Michigan. And up the top end, you turn around, and it's only a very short turnaround, and you start to head south. And you start to come back via the Pride section, I think it was, where we saw drag queens dancing there, Tara. It was about that stage there when we were coming back. And you come back largely parallel with the existing course. You can look over your left-hand side, and you'll see runners going in the opposite direction, 2 or 3 streets away from you. It gets pretty cool because as you come back into the city, you're running underneath the elevated rail sections, under elevated train sections, which is famous Chicago sort of skyline. You then come through the city again, and then you head out west from the city, and it's pretty much a straight dog leg out west here. You then come out back down and around and turn around and come back east again. Then you head south, and you keep going south. Before we do that, as you're going east, you're running past where the Chicago Bulls play at the basketball center there. I can't remember the official name of it, but you'll see it there. But as you come back, which one is it?
The United
Arena. That's it. United Arena. Yep. Then as you run back, you get great views of the Wills Tower and the Chicago skyline before you start to continue to head south and do a sort of a mini loop of the city before you come back down and around to the southernmost point of the course, where you then loop around again and then head north over the last 2 or 3 kilometers before you do your famous right turn with about 400 or 500 meters to go there. Right turn up the hill. It's probably the only hill on the entire course. They call it a massive hill. Yeah, it's pretty hard at the end when you're at about 41.8 kilometers. But then you turn left, and it is as a fast straight to the finish line. And it's pretty spectacular. And once you cross that finish line, I reckon you've got one of the best post-race experiences that you get. Just be mindful, it is a long walk. You're probably walking at least a mile, but as you're walking, they're taking photos of you. They're handing you food. They're handing you water. They're handing you Stan's donuts. They're handing you muscle milk, and they're handing you a beer. And basically, you just grab it all and enjoy it and take it all in. There's plenty of room in the back of the park there, in the back of the area there, where you can actually take your time and just absorb what you've done, and that's what we did. So we really enjoyed it. We had a great time doing the race, and the course itself is fairly flat, fairly fast. It just has a lot of twists and turns in it, but it is a complete circuit. And some of the memories I guess I've got, one is of running through Little Mexico, and you'll know it's Little Mexico because on every street there's a jukebox, DJ playing, loudspeakers, lots of music, lots of dancing. And then there's another section there when you run through Chinatown, which is about 37 kilometers or thereabouts, or 35 kilometers. And again, it comes in with all the smells of Chinese food and people there cheering you on. It was pretty happy and full on memories for us. Do you have any other memories, guys, of the event?
The one overriding memory of the Chicago Marathon course is when you're coming down that last long straight before you take that right turn and up the hill, is that sign that says 800 meters to go, and you've got about 3K to go. So, and everyone keeps saying to me, it's from the race before, it's the 5K the day before, but the 5K doesn't follow that path. So I still don't know why it's there, but it does your head in because you think to yourself, oh, I'm pretty close. And then you're actually not. So yeah, no, yeah. I love the course. I was just looking at my photos on my other screen from the day. Yeah, it was a good day for us. That's the fastest time we've done in a major. And it was just one of those days where we hit our 30Ks about 3:53, which is really good for us. And I wanted to keep going and really try and get around that 5:30. And we just both decided, let's just chill for the remainder. And we came home in 5:45, I think. So I was pretty happy with Chicago. Loved it.
Yeah.
I loved Chicago. I recommend looking up at the signs. The Nike signs are very good and very hilarious. You will see those anywhere that Nike is one of the major sponsors, but the Chicago ones really are quite good. And I also recommend there is some little bridges that you go over across the rivers that Tim mentioned, and they will put red carpet down over top of the bridges because it snows in Chicago, and these are drawbridges that get lifted up for the boats to go through it's like a little canal almost instead of a river, but it is a river. And to stop the snow actually accumulating on the bridges, they have grates. So they're like, it's almost like a cheese grater if you think of it that way. And they put red carpet down over top of the bridge, but doesn't cover the whole entire way. If you can run on that red carpet rather than the grated area, if it's wet, it is slippery. And if you fall, it literally is like a cheese grater and will do that to your skin. So just be aware that try and keep it to that red carpet if you can, going over those bridges just for your own safety.
And just a call out for people as well. When they give you your beer, if you want to walk back to your hotel holding the beer, you can't, because it's got to be drunk in the area. So don't think you can take a roadie, because there are people at the exit. So yeah, enjoy it there. And as I said before, for me, it was one of the highlights getting can of beer before a bottle of water. And the other thing that I did, because for me in 22, I'd done London the week before, and Chicago literally a week later. I thought, how am I going to have fun on this one? So I started counting how many Dunkin' Donuts stores I'd see along course. And I think within the space of the first 5 or 6 Ks, I think I got to nearly a dozen. And then I actually saw people eating donuts and running. Like, we know I love my donuts, but even I have limits. Even I wouldn't have done that.
And on another positive note, it was one of the few majors where Sharon and I were able to get a chocolate thick shake at McDonald's on the way back to the hotel. We tried it in Berlin and they were out, and after making us line up for like half an hour. But Chicago, well done. Chocolate thick shake at the McDonald's just close to where we were staying downtown.
There you go. So yeah, that's the race, Tony.
That's awesome, as always, Tim. So how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you recommend the Chicago Marathon for our listeners? Luch?
I'll give it a 10. Oh, sorry.
Tara's given it a 10.
I'm going to go 9.
9, 10. All right.
I
so
said
let's
9
talk
and a half,
about
10.
9.5. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So
it's one of my favorite majors. Yep.
Awesome. So let's
What about you, Tony?
I would say 9.5, 10 too. It was a great major to run, and I just enjoyed it. Everything from the shakeout runs along the river and the lakefront, all the time. And the week before, where Sharon and I were in town the week before, it was just great. So apart from the marathon, what are some of the things that people can look forward to do around Chicago while they're there for the marathon? Tara. Sorry, Tara.
If you're going to go visit the Bean, which is a famous silver bean, literally, in Chicago, go there early in the morning, like around 7:30, 8 o'clock. Still daylight, but there's nobody around. You can get your photos with it. So if you go later in the day, you're packed out and there's too many people around. And if you watch the show The Beer, it's on Netflix, I think it is. They have the original Mr. Beef, and Mr. Beef is a sandwich shop which this show is based on. Definitely eat one of these sandwiches. They are the best sandwiches ever, and they go so well for pre-marathon, even in my stomach. Perfect.
Yeah.
Best sandwiches ever. Yeah.
Luch, any recommendations for Chicago?
Deep pan pizza.
Yeah.
And if you're into your live sports, I saw a baseball game and an NBA game.
Oh, okay. And Tim?
Yeah, you won't get an NFL game because they typically don't play on marathon weekend. One of the memories that I have is on a Friday night. On the Friday night, Tara and I just went for a wander and we found this place called Jake Melnick's Corner Tap. And it is just a local pub in suburbia, just down near the Miracle Mile there. And it was just great. Go there on a Friday night. All the sports screens are up. Everyone's sitting there after work. They're catching up with mates from the end of the week. And we felt very welcome and very comfortable there. So it was really good. I guess the other one that I remember really well is a river cruise along the river. Highly rate that. The historic buildings and the architecture in there is very stunning and very different than a lot of other modern cities in around the world. So definitely recommend that.
Absolutely. And I'm going to support the fact, go sit in a local sports bar, because the year we went, Tim, the Chicago Bears actually played on the Saturday down at Soldier Field.
Did they?
And we didn't get a ticket because we looked at the prices of the ticket, but we did the next best thing and go sat in a local sports bar on the north side of the river, down where we were staying in Miracle Mile, and it was just, the food was good, the crowd was good natured, it was a lot of fun. Actually, it might have been the weekend before. I'm wrong. It was the weekend before, and it was the Sunday, but we absolutely loved that. So that was cool. All righty, well, that's it. I think we've done a pretty impressive effort there walking through the Chicago Marathon. So to our viewers and listeners, if you are thinking of going to the Chicago Marathon or have done the Chicago Marathon, why don't you let us know what you're most looking forward to if you're yet to go, or the thing that you enjoyed the most for those that have went, because it is one of our most favorite marathons that we've run. And we want to hear what your memories and what you're looking forward to when you run the Chicago Marathon. So it's that time of the week, but where we get a tip from Tim. So Tim, what's your tip for the week?
Lace up tight, real snug. Feel the ground like a friendly hug. Run past worries, leave them behind. Chase the wind, see what you find. Tim's tip, just keep your pace. No need to win, no need to race. Feel the earth, feel the sky. Tim's tips does, just give it a try.
Thanks, Tony. My tip's very simple. Get out and explore new cities. I've said this before, but going out to somewhere like Chicago, there's so much history there. Get out on the river, go for a walk, look at all the architecture, go meet the locals, go sit in the pub on a Friday night, watch the football, watch the basketball, talk to the locals, get involved, because it is real fun. And there's some of the memories we've got. And as I said earlier on in this podcast, life is short. You just never know how long you've got on this planet. So go out there, compete in something like Chicago, go off and run it, but go out and explore it and have some fun along the way. That's my tip.
And that's an awesome tip. Now, we're just about to end the episode, but I'm going to throw it over to Luch to find out what's happening next week.
Well, thank you, Tony. So next week, you're going to be getting your bags ready to head over to Amsterdam. And we thought we'd be nice, and we're going to help him out to get ready for the event. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a chat about everything you need to know about the Amsterdam Marathon, being one of Europe's biggest marathons. It does look like a lot of fun. So as usual, we're going to talk everything from the expo to the finish line and everything in between. As we keep saying, we are the only podcast with 4 7-star world major marathoners. As usual, it's going to be another great episode and not one to be missed.
Yeah, and I am so looking forward to Amsterdam because, as you know, I've been diving into it. There's a lot changed this year because it's the 50th anniversary. It's their largest ever field. When you look at last year, they had 16,000 finishers. This year, they've got 30,000 starters. So it's going to be a really interesting race, and some of the stuff has changed around. So I'm feeling really good about getting and doing Amsterdam. Really looking forward to it. But Thanks, Lucia. That's it for this week's show. As usual, it's been fun having a chat tonight and reminiscing about the great memories that we had in Chicago. Thank you so much for joining us. I wish you all the best this week, you guys, and I can't wait to catch up next week. And then I think we've got a bit of a break while I depart and travel around the world. We love making this podcast for our listeners, so let us know what you think of whether you want to do Chicago or what's the next major you're aiming for, or what sort of races are you looking at to do in 2026. And you can do that just by sending us a message on Instagram, Facebook, or emailing us at happyrunning@flyingrunner.com. If you've got any questions about Chicago, why don't you throw them in there, and I'm sure that we can answer them to the best of our ability. You can watch this episode on Spotify and YouTube, and of course you can listen on most other podcast platforms, including Apple, Amazon, and everything else that's out there in the podcast world. So every step counts. Keep running, and we're going to see you next time on the Flying RuNR Podcast. Until then, happy running.
Happy running.